Hi, Ben Spiller here of Dynamic Dollies and Racks. Today we're going to assemble an Opti dolly. All we're going to need is a cordless screw gun, scissors to open the box. Let's check it out. Okay, so we've just opened our outer box and we've got a couple important things to point out. Here is a packing list, assembly instructions, a sticker, and a brochure. Here you can see who's checked the outer box. It would be Mark for M. Mark for M has checked the inner boxes. We've got our wheels and our tubes here. So I'm going to lay everything out, make sure it's all there, and we'll go forward. Great, we've just opened up our inner box and identified all of our parts, made sure that they're here on our packing list. We're ready to move forward. I think it's a good idea on just about any dolly you assemble to start with the axle. So this is the axle for the Opti. I'm going to start with our axle fittings. Got my screw bag here. Along with spare fastener bag and wheel shaft security screws. I'll set those aside for later. Simple press on the axle fittings should do it. A little bit of force might be necessary. And then we're going to slide in our wheel shaft. You'll see that there are two holes here in the wheel shaft, here and here. They are going to go in this way and line up with the two holes on our axle fitting 3. That's the axle fitting for the Optimist dolly. Next thing I like to do is preload all of these screws here. Need a short one for up top, so I've got one short here and another one here that I'm going to use for the other side. What I like to do is put the screw through and then put the nut into the hexagonal recess. Do a couple twists by your finger and then it can stay in there. This is the trickier part here where we're trying to line up the holes. I've got it. Okay, now that I've got a couple tightens finger tight on the screws, I'm going to take my screw gun. It's a good idea to set it to about 75% of what the max capacity is, max torque on the screw gun. This one goes to about 22. I like to set it to about 16 or 17. That way you won't over tighten. So then just take one finger, put it on the end of the nut, and go until it clicks. And then leave a nut there. If you don't have a cordless screw gun, you can certainly use a screwdriver. You want to tighten them fairly tight, not as tight as you possibly can, but just make sure everything's secure. Now I'm going to take the cross fitting here and mount that under. Okay, so the majority of the axle assembly is complete. Our new Opti dolly features a splice here on the tongue tube that goes like this, and I find it's easier to attach the aft tongue tube, as we call it, to the axle right now. So what I'm going to do is identify which part of the axle we want to be back, and that's the side with the sticker. which is here. So that means I'm going to put this in this way. That way the sticker faces aft, you can see it from behind the boat. That's the way we encourage everyone to assemble. Okay, now our axle is complete with the aft tongue tube installed. We're going to wait for the wheels. That'll probably be the last thing we do. So I'm going to set this aside and move on to the tongue tube. Okay, now we're going to assemble our tongue tube, handle tube, and all of the fittings that go along with it. Here's the tongue tube, the forward section with the rub rail. It's going to be on the front end of the dolly. Here's our bow tube. We're going to join the two with the elbow fitting. The elbow fitting is actually asymmetric. People don't really realize this, but there's a longer piece here of plastic that will prevent the dolly from slipping backwards if it's on a hill, because it will dig into the ground. And as it's on the ground, over years it will wear away, and this has a little bit more material so that it can wear appropriately. Okay, same story here. I like to put the screws in, put the nut on first, then take the screw, slide it through, find the nut, give it a couple turns so it stays put. And tighten those up. Okay, now we're going to have the handle fitting. Goes on just like that. Dropping screws and nuts is a pretty common thing. We advise you to not assemble your dolly on grass, because you will lose nuts very easily. That's why we include the spare fastener bag. We've got a couple extra long screws and nuts in there just in case, but it's always a good idea to do it on concrete or on a table. It makes it a lot easier, and you won't lose anything if you eventually do drop some nuts. Here's our edge trim. This is made of a material called Santoprene. It's a softer plastic that will go under the gunnel of the Opti, and it's non-marking. It's a little bit softer. Nice integration between the dolly and the boat. Okay, now we're going to put our handle tube on. I think it's a good idea to put one of the grips on first, and then slide it through, and then put the other grip on. And give it a little twist each way. It'll help slide the two grips on closer to each other. Okay, we're ready for final assembly here. This is the same way you'd break down the dolly if you were going to fit into the back of your car or truck. And we've got our wheels, our tongue assembly, and our axle assembly. Pretty easy here. Just got to splice with the snap button, push it in, push the buttons together. Boom. Here we've got our wheels, which are not symmetrical actually. Where the valve comes out, it comes out on one side, so I would put the stem of the valve on the outside of the dolly. That way if you ever need to reach it, it's a little bit easier. Okay, and our Opti dolly is great. Our Opti dolly is fully assembled. I just want to point out a couple of the features of Dynamic's new Opti dolly. Here we have our new axle fitting. We call it axle fitting 3. It channels the boat when the boat's right side up onto the dolly here with these two supports, and it also allows the boat to fit upside down on the dolly. The deck will actually ride right in here nice and snugly, and the bow will sit right here, so you can leave your boat outside and not worry about it filling up with water or anything like that. Here on the front of the dolly, we have an eyelet on the front of the handle fitting. Allows for tie down. Here's another tie down point, this hole here, if you'd want to lash your dolly down. This rub rail here is non-scuffing. It's a great way to pad the aluminum bar from the boat. We've got our standard dynamic wheels with ball bearings and inner tubes, push buttons made of stainless steel with aluminum wheel shafts on the end here. It's corrosion proof, and it's going to last a long time. It's a great value. You can get it from your local dealer or directly from the manufacturer, Dynamic Dollies and Racks. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.